Here's Jerry now.
How are you?
Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
Welcome. We'll call the finance meeting to order now. And I did not publish an agenda for the finance meeting. I'd like to just start with an update. We have communicated with the auditor and we've deferred the auditor's report for the board meeting until next month when Alan Walter will be available. He offered to do the presentation this month, but the preliminary audit that he supplied to the management and to Marie and I indicate that it's a nice, reasonable audit with, although there's a recommendation and, it's a business recommendation, there were no items of concern that would cause us to either need the information sooner or need to make any kind of accommodations. The audit is a routine audit and reflects essentially good management. Paul, did you want to add to that before we move away from the audit discussion?
No, I think that's it. I haven't really studied it yet myself, so I haven't had too much time on that. But we'll be taking a look at it in the next month or so.
Yes, I think it's been a nice transition. So we'll start the finance meeting next month with the auditors conference. Well, I've asked Paul if he would go over the financials for the month. They've been distributed, and if you would do that, Paul, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. I'll take a look. If you take a look at the income statement, revenue, the primary revenue here, of course, is from the tax levy. I think it's, there it is. The tax levy for this time of year is pretty much on target with a relatively slight variance. There's not a great deal else to comment on the income. The only major income would be the fundraising that's been done for this year. Is there any questions on the revenue part?
Paul, in receiving the tax levy, did they convey any additional information about their
No.
level of collections or rate?
As far as we understand, everything is on track. So no, they haven't mentioned any
Okay.
particular issues.
Okay, so the $27,000 variance, this is that just their flow? Or do we expect to receive the entire?
We're in the 27,000. Where are you? I'm sorry. There's a $10,000 variance year to date in the tax levy.
Uh-huh.
That's the total variance.
Okay, so it's
That's
just the flow.
pretty small. It's really just a matter of timing more than anything at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions on the revenue portion?
None for me.
On the expense portion, under salaries, they are running a bit higher. Part of that is there's 3 payrolls in March. And that kind of carries over into April. This is just the end of April, so it doesn't include anything in May. Let's say take a look here. The audit, of course, is mostly paid, so that's why that's higher right now. Equipment purchase is a little bit higher than normal for this time of year because we have been purchasing more additional hotspots through grants that we received from the Friends, and also continuing on with the grant we received from the McCarthy Foundation. I have, by the way, put in another grant to the McCarthy Foundation this year for additional computer equipment, hotspots, and also for e-content expenses. So we'll see how that goes.
Who is the grant to?
The McCarthy Foundation.
Okay, thank you. Could you give just a snapshot of what the McCarthy Foundation is?
Well, it was set up, I believe, by Bob McCarthy, who's a local resident, and it's a local foundation.
It's based on the McCarthys that ran Troy Waste.
Oh, okay.
They also were the people who built the McCarthy building. And they have had this grant for a long time. I think it was started, I don't know if it was started by the grandfather who had the Troy Waste, or if it was started by his children or grandchildren, but I know it's been around for a long time.
Thank you.
I remember it was around when I was in high school, and I graduated from high school in 1957. So it's been around a long time.
Wonderful.
They give usually small grants, maybe $5,000 or so, Paul, is
Yeah.
that about the amount?
Yeah, this last year was 15, and we applied this year for 13,000 something.
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
But not huge grants. They're
right. And can I ask, do we do anything with the Robeson Foundation?
I haven't applied to that, no.
That might be, they're local people. That's, oh God, why am I blanking on it? Robeson, Pratt.
Well, there's also the Howard and Bush Foundation as well.
Right.
Yep.
Jerry, is it the Prouts?
Yeah, it's Alyssa Prout's family, Robeson. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, under second page here, gas and electric is obviously high for this time of the year, but that's normal. As we move into the non-heating system or season, it'll go back down and hopefully equal out the budget by the end of the year. There's slight variance here in the Lansingburg maintenance. What I budgeted is actually about 3,000 of that goes into the cleaning service budget and comes out of that Lansingburg maintenance account. So it's a matter of switching those numbers around a little bit. Let's see. Library materials totally are up over the year-to-date budget based on the fact that we had slowed way down last year, mid-year, and we needed to take up the slack there a little bit. And so that's a little higher right now. That'll sort of even out as the year goes on. Any questions on the expense portion?
Just in an overall, Paul, with the net income down, have you any concerns at all about this year's budget, or do you see it as normal flow?
No, it's normal. I don't see any any reason for concern at this point. Everything seems pretty normal.
Thank you.
Now, Paul, I saw a list of the recipients of the art grants. And I noticed that the library wasn't on them. Is this a grant we typically apply for or not one that we
It
do?
is, these are particularly program grants. In other words, they're grants to hire an artist to do a program. And since we haven't been doing the live programs yet, you know, I guess that we sort of decided not to go with a grant this year and wait until the next round.
So they're only available once a year? Or is there another
Yeah,
round?
it's just a once year, yeah.
Any other questions on the income or revenue statements? Well, I had a question about the balance sheet, but I think we should probably do it offline because I've never really understood this as well as I should. Maybe we could have some discussion, but I thought that a balance sheet would, the assets, anyway, I'm somewhat confused about it. So I think
Gotta find it.
educational conversation with me would help me. I don't know if anybody else is.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's basically assets and liabilities. I don't know what the question would be at this point.
Well, it just, on the first page, it says assets are 1,923,662. And then underneath it says the total assets are 1,177,108. And I didn't understand the role or impact of the non-current government assets. But I think this is more technical in my mind. I have to try to understand it better. I just thought you might be able to help with that, but
Yeah, okay, I don't, yeah. I checked with the auditors that I met at one point, and now I can't remember exactly how that works. Joy, I don't know if you know or remember what they said about that?
Yes, I think those are the depreciation numbers.
Oh, okay. So you subtract those,
Yep.
basically. I mean,
Yes.
those are what they determine as depreciation numbers. Of course, I don't know how to say this, but depreciation doesn't mean a lot in our particular case. Depreciation is basically your figure used for tax purposes. And since we don't pay taxes on the federal or state level, it doesn't really mean a whole lot.
okay.
So would the 1,177 be more equivalent to like the adjusted gross income on your income taxes?
I guess, yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah. And that's why depreciation comes into play when you're figuring, you know, balance sheets for tax purposes.
right. Gotcha.
Okay, the two other items I had on the agenda were we need to request the approval of our expenses this month. And so we could move on to that. Current bills, April and May. And the aggregate number that we'll be presenting to the board for recommended payment is $34,193.41. And Not sure how to move through this. I guess we could just generally ask for questions. Or is there anything remarkable that you'd like to say, Paul, about expenses this month?
No, not certainly to me, but I don't know if you see anything that looks odd, but to me, it's pretty well routine.
I was curious about the purpose for the bill to the library or to the lawyer.
The lawyer again, yes, I asked a question. That's what it costs to ask a question, by the way. So
About any,
we keep that to a minimum.
about any particular topic? Was it about the,
Oh, gosh, I can't
Was it
remember
about the
exactly. Is it in the
contract?
bills, Joy? I don't know. What did the bill say?
I can try to find it. If you hold on one second, I'll
Yeah,
see if I
can't
can
remember
find
what
it.
question that was even.
I was wondering whether it was regarding the HSR contract?
We did ask them to review the contract, and they did sign off on it with a minor change here and there. But I'm not sure if that was the 202 or whether I didn't get that bill yet.
Mhm.
That's why I say if I could check what it says on the bills, but
Are we going to be doing credit card separately, Bob? Or is that included?
Yes, that's in the expenses. With
Yeah,
Joy's
card
getting
bill.
the statements in a different period, we've now included on page 2. The credit card is $463.22. So it is included in the total amount now.
Okay, so then I had a question about the credit card bill for the memorial donation.
Yeah, this was a donation to the music school at Potsdam. Sean Minotti's mother passed away. And so we took a collection for a donation to the school, and that represents the collection that we took from the staff.
So essentially, the credit card was used to contribute, but it was reimbursed by the
Yeah.
collection that you took.
Reimbursed by the staff, yep.
The bill for the lawyers was in regards to contract review, architect agreement for historic preservation work.
Oh, okay, that's a bargain then.
No, that's good.
I expect, that's usually what one question costs. So they did the whole contract for that.
That's not bad.
Not at
Good.
all.
Well, are there any other questions on the expenses?
Not from me.
Okay. And I wanted to add a discussion. We've got 8 minutes. Maria, are you agreeing to bring up the account again, or are we going to leave that to another time?
I thought you felt that it would be good to see
Review it?
whether people have resolved their questions, whether
Yes.
ready for another vote.
Just to give me a 2-minute review. We began to talk about the accounts, conversations evolved from Marie and Paul. We considered a clearer definition, considered reallocating how we manage the accounts in order for us to track the flow more easily and gain a greater clarity. We had 3 meetings in committee. We brought it once to the finance meeting, and then brought it back to the finance meeting. And so last month when we brought it up, because we had been having ongoing conversations, and it was pretty well finalized, in Paul's absence, his affirmation of going forward with it was acceptable. And I wanted to try to bring it to a close. A part of it was to do it at the same time as our audit. We did ask the auditor to look at these as well, these accounts, and found no problem with the proposal. Any discussions around issues of clarity or statements were done prior, and somehow the motion was not passed. So we're sort of at a loggerhead here. We have worked very hard on this, and I wanted to ask again if we could bring this to a vote because of the amount of work that's going on. And I think the general agreement for moving forward has been exhaustively explored, both with the auditor, with each of us, with the management, and with the two other discussions we've had in our meeting. So I wanted to ask for a revote and propose that we accept the realignment of accounts, which essentially is just housekeeping. And some of the wording I know was focused on last time, but I'm not still sure of the concerns. So I would like to propose that we accept the proposed account realignment and recommend that to the board today.
May I make a comment?
Surely.
Okay. Looking at this, my concerns and objections have not changed, but I do want the rest of the committee to know that we're in the process of conversing with some others who are well-versed in this to possibly come up with some other definitions, some other wording to make it more, I'll use this word, this is a personal word, palatable, to make it more workable from my perspective. And if you are willing to hold off on this until I can get some responses to share with the Finance Committee, I would appreciate that.
Well, it's a hard request for me to get enthusiastic about because of the amount of time we've spent together doing it, but and it's somewhat non-specific as to what you'd like. I would leave it up to the voters if we want to defer it and not vote. Let's first poll people on that, and if it's deferred, then we'll defer it. If not, we go forward with it. So I would like to just ask people, do we want to move forward on this, or would we like to honor Evelyn's request and bring it up at another time? We wouldn't bring it up next month because of the audit and other things. It just delays the change. So if we'd like to honor Evelyn's request, we shall, and if not, we'll call a vote now. So on the question of whether we defer it, I would ask people to respond. How many would agree to defer to Evelyn's request?
Well, I have a question. Could we run it by the auditors or have you done that? Did you say you did that already?
We did give it to the auditors,
Mhm.
and they said that it was a no impact action, and they felt either way would work, or they said this would work fine. They did not have a problem. They did not drive this process. They did not have a problem with the old accounts either. They basically had no recommendation other than they found it routine.
Would it be feasible to bring it up in the meeting with the auditors and let them know our objection to it, or the objection to it, or no? Or does that not fit?
I would think that's involving a third party and something they didn't have anything to do with. I think if we did that, we should do it outside of the order. If the discussion goes forward and we don't pass this today, and the further discussion to re-involve the auditors as a consult, we could do that. But at this point, their involvement hasn't been, other than giving an affirmative statement, has been minimal.
Okay.
Bob, I have a sort of a technical question here. What we did is we transferred money into what we call the investment account. And then the procedure is to track that money as bookkeeping entries. So we have an investment account, and then we say the construction account, and then the designated construction account, those are tracked. But then what do we put in the other two reserve accounts is the question. Now, we did receive a bequest of about 196,000, which I assumed would go into a savings sort of reserve account. And then based on our books, it seems we carried over approximately 50,000 from last year, or we saved that much from last year, which I thought might go into the short-term reserve account. But I don't have any designation yet. We don't have any amounts yet for these accounts.
And I'm not sure what the point of that is in terms of realigning the accounts.
Well, I think people would want to track where this money is going.
Yes,
Well, we
that's
haven't,
the whole point of it.
we haven't had a designation of which funds are which in order to track them, except for the two construction accounts.
Well, isn't the realignment a matter of us moving the funds as described? So when you say we haven't done it, it's because we haven't approved the accounts. If we approve the accounts, then we move the money and then we go forward in business and doing business in that manner. We can't get done what we haven't yet done.
Well, that's a question, and that's why I say there's, people would like to know, right now that money is lumped into the investment account.
Right. If we approve this today and the board approves it, then we will establish it and give a full accounting of all of the monies that have been moved and go forward from that point on in the new structure. So the mechanics of doing it is not conditional on the approval of the accounts. We're asking, can we move forward with this and then implement it? And certainly the implementation will be carefully done with every dollar tracked to each fund.
It looks like we've again run out of time.
Well,
Could we just,
again, it don't seem to be in a position to make a decision because the conversation hasn't evolved. But we remain stuck on this issue time after time with continued committee meetings. So what I'd like to do then is ask for a committee meeting between now and our next board meeting
Mhm.
and just solve this problem at length.
yeah, I was,
We,
yeah. I was
We'll
gonna,
have to have a special meeting because we're stuck here.
right,
Okay, so we'll find a time and schedule a special meeting by Zoom and see if we can resolve this. All right, so that issue is no longer an issue. Is there anything else in the financial area that we need to address?
Do we need to vote on the approval of the bills?
I thought we did that, Marie.
Did we
Yes.
vote?
The 34,193.41. I thought I
don't-
did that as a second item.
We didn't-
You covered it, but I don't think there was an actual vote to whether,
Okay. I
to
would ask
recommend
for a
it.
Vote to recommend, we pay our expenses and this month, which is 34,193.41.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Thank God. All right, I propose we close the meeting.
I think the problem is that we have all the other stuff we have to do first, and it doesn't leave much time in the end.
Yes, I think it will be worth
Yeah,
taking the time.
Yeah.
You're correct, surely.
Okay, so moving on to the board meeting. First, I'd like to have the introductions. So, Bob, are you, Bob Doherty, present? Are
Yes.
you present? Evelyn Greenstein,
present.
Brianna Clark,
Present.
Jerry DeSev,
Present.
Kirsten Larcher,
Present.
Michelle Cooper,
Present.
or is it Michelle Hayward? I'm not sure of the protocol.
It's both.
Michelle Hayward Cooper.
Just to make it a little longer.
And we have several other people. So the director, Paul Hickok,
Here.
and our business manager, Joy Chard.
Present.
And we have one guest, Virginia.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for coming. Okay, we do that because otherwise people don't necessarily know who's on the Zoom session, who might watch it later or are watching it elsewhere. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Virginia, since you're the only member of the public here right now, do you have a comment?
I do not.
Okay, the treasurer's report is next, Bob. Oh, you're
I'm sorry, Marika, you talk,
I'll get closer. Is that better? Am I louder? The treasurer's report is next.
okay, we had a finance committee and we gave a brief statement about the expected audit. We wanted to have it presented this month. The preliminary audit is in. It was a very routine audit with no significant concerns, with minor recommendations of administrative tracking to get double approval for some entries. I think you'll find the audit helpful and a nice transition from one auditor to the other. The reason we deferred it for the month is that Alan Walther was not available this month. And although it was ready, we thought if there were questions, he might better participate. And so we deferred it to next month. So we reviewed our income statements and revenue, answered all questions. The amount of bills that we have this month to be approved and paid. We reviewed the expense statements. We now include the credit card in our expenses because we've effectively changed the reporting period in which they bill us. So our total expenditures for payment this month are $34,193.41. And we reviewed this in the meeting and we recommend that it be approved.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I second.
How many? I'm going to take Brianna because I'm not sure who all was involved in the earlier second. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
All against? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is approval, is the consent agenda consisting of the approval of the minutes, the building committee report, administrative committee report, UHLS report, and president's report, of which there is none. For the last, does anyone wish to see an item removed from the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve?
well,
the
let
con-
me, give me 1 second. It looks like the only thing that we should have to review this, so the director's report is pulled down into the regular agenda. And the only other items, was there a building committee meeting in the Dropbox? I can't remember.
There is a building committee meeting. I'm not sure
Report.
whether there's a report or not.
I thought there was, and I apologize.
Yeah, I
if there's
think, no, I
not.
think there is. I think there is. I'm just trying to, yes. Wait, is there building files? Let me just.
I
look.
don't see that in
Oh,
the,
maybe not.
in the
My
folder.
apologies, and if it's not there, I will get one for next month's meeting. My apologies that it's not there now.
Okay,
Okay, so then I am going to, so really what's on the consent agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes and the Upper Hudson Library System report. And then the director's report is in the regular agenda.
yes.
Okay,
So is there a motion to approve those items that Michelle has identified as being on the consent agenda?
I motion to approve them.
Is there a second?
I second.
Another tie.
I heard Jerry first.
Good.
Okay, we'll accept Jerry's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
All against? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, on the regular agenda, the historic structures report. Kirsten, do you want to describe what's been going on there?
So there's been a series of discussions to try and set up meetings for meeting with the library consultant. And the hope is to have meetings with them on site to a degree possible. That we've talked with Paul and his staff to find dates that were would work for them and would work to meet in the building. I think we're looking at this point, Paul, is it the 19th of May?
Yes, we had to change that a little bit, but we set it up for the 19th of May at 9 o'clock with our department heads. There'll be about 7 of us. And Alex and his group wants to meet in person, so we'll be meeting in the building.
And then there's been also talk about meeting then with the board on the evening of the 19th. And that would be a virtual meeting to talk about the building, what our concerns are, what our hopes are, what our aspirations are. That would be a first round conversation with the consultant to for them to hear our thoughts and gather our impressions. And I'm hoping that people will be willing to participate and contribute to that effort, or are able to participate and contribute to that effort.
Now, is there a reason that's being held virtually rather than taking advantage of their presence on site to meet with them in person?
It sounded like there was, it sounded like it was challenging to coordinate a time when we can get into the library that would be convenient for everybody. And it sounded like some people it was easier to meet remotely than in person. So for the interest of gathering as many board members together as possible and gathering their input, it was chosen to meet remotely. I am prepared and willing to meet in person with the consultants, and would invite anybody else who also would like to meet in person with the consultants to also do that in addition to the virtual meeting.
Has
So
there been, go ahead.
I have a question. Marie had talked to me about the Friends meeting with the consultant. Was there a schedule for that?
There's not yet. In fact, one of the items I'd like to talk about this evening is additional stakeholder groups from outside of the, I want to say additional stakeholder groups who may want to participate in this exercise. And I think that it'd be great to have additional people and organizations involved, get their input in this planning process, but it really needs to get buy-in from the board, I think, to say that that's what the board would like to do. I think is what
I had spoken with Freda as the president of the Friends about being interviewed on the 19th because I saw them as an internal group rather than an external group.
I'm not quite sure where the line is between internal and external. I guess that was part of my own
And I think another reason too is because I think there are a lot more external groups that we might tap. And so fewer internal. So I was trying to make better use of their on-site time in May that they're going to be here.
I agree. I think it'd be great to meet with them, with as many people as possible, with as many groups as possible. We are running out of time here, unfortunately. And so I think we talked about having one series of meetings on the 19th and then an additional series of meetings at a date to be determined. That was my recollection.
That's, I think, a date in June.
A date to be determined in June. Yeah.
Right. Also, I think that there was also a possibility of other virtual meetings occurring during the not on-site time in instances where people were not comfortable meeting in person. So which allows more flexibility in that. Another thing that was discussed, and I don't know whether you noticed this within the folder, the building folder, was that they proposed sending out a survey, a very simple survey, about 10 questions that they've used before, and having that done essentially between the two visits. And again, that's something that the board should have input on as well. And that we'd like to see get finalized very quickly so that there is time for that to be collected.
And
prior
as I
to.
recall, there would also be part of that questionnaire would also include as a driver to that second meeting to gauge interest and availability for that second meeting or that second series of meetings.
And who would the survey go to? Is it just to the board?
No, it wouldn't go to the board. It's to the public.
To the public, okay,
It's a way of trying to get wider input.
right. Okay.
It's something that they've used previously during other consultancies that they've done with libraries.
Mhm.
And so they mentioned, for instance, asking the city to send it out.
Mhm. Okay.
To get that.
And that could be in addition to us sending it out. So
Right. There was also, we discussed too that not all of our residents of Troy are electronically facile.
Mhm.
And so that, it could be at the desk, the circulation desk or at the library for people to pick up hard copies and complete. It wasn't seen as being limited. I think the intention is to get as wide a distribution as possible. So another item that should be discussed tonight is who the board would propose be the other groups that are interviewed for the June on-site date, or aside from that, virtually. And I know Evelyn had suggested, and Paul reminded me today, that Evelyn had suggested that groups who use the library for program purposes would be a group, and that should have good input as far as what they find as the strengths and the constraints that exist in the library and what they would like to see.
And I was
Evelyn?
going to say, in addition, I also had said instructors
Could,
who have
could-
some
could-
program.
I think that was,
That's what I meant.
Well, there are groups that use it. For example, there's a Japanese study group. There's Riverside. These are groups that use the library to meet and talk and discuss. But there's also instructors who have presented programs who can see I'll say the benefits and the flaws of the building firsthand. They're not always I know, Paul, you had said sometimes they're patrons. They're not always patrons, and they're not always staff. I mentioned at least 3 to you, to Paul, of individuals that I know who are not on staff, who have developed programs and have talked about, the pros and cons of the library and using it. So to me, there's a wider reach in that than just the groups. And I just wanted to reiterate that.
but they're not necessarily staff programs, right?
Oh,
Or
exactly.
they are library sponsored programs
They're
or not?
Yes, they're library sponsored programs, but we have library sponsored programs that are delivered by staff members. And then there have been library programs that have been delivered by non-staff members, and also people who sometimes aren't active patrons. So, there's that third tier of people. But I think they have, because, I've had to hear their comments on how delivering a program works. Sometimes it doesn't work, what the flaws are and what the pros are. You have to look at it from all those angles. I think they'd be a very valuable resource too.
So if I may, and I don't want to monopolize the meeting, and someone please cut me off if I'm spending too much time. I'm hoping that we can get down to specifics. So Evelyn, you mentioned groups. Could I have some names, please?
Okay. Riverside meets at the library.
Riverside, and you have a name who's I can reach out to?
Sandra Rouse is very actively involved in that group.
Okay. Next.
There's a Japanese study group.
Who would know how to reach them?
I can get all of that, Kirsten.
Okay.
That's true.
Yep.
Next.
Meditation group.
I'm sorry?
There's a meditation group that meets.
Paul, you got that?
Yeah, we can get all of the information on those.
And
Next.
Paul can get the info on the instructors too.
Right.
Okay.
I think there was a mental health group of some kind that was meeting as well.
Mhm.
I think they only meet at Lansingburg now.
Okay.
But they've used this too, right? They have used the library. Am I
Okay,
correct?
As far as I know, as long as I can remember, they've been using Lansingburg.
Okay, I thought they did some things here too.
I don't remember.
So do you want the friends to hold tight till you decide whether we're an outside group or an inside group?
No, we're I think Maria had asked if you are available on the 19th, and so I don't know, did you say you are available or you're not available?
This is the first I've heard about the 19th. I was told it was the 18th.
Oh, did I give you the wrong date? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
the 18th. So the question is when and how many people and whether it is in person or virtual. And in order for me to reach out to our board and other people who are very involved in the Friends, I need to know whether it's in person or virtual.
It was proposed that it be 6 people.
6 people.
Yeah,
Now,
up to 6.
I thought I heard a maximum of 10.
Well, does that include the, I figured 6 plus the people who are involved in the meeting, so that would add up to 10.
I don't know, because it was part of Paul's concern about the COVID restrictions. So Paul, what was your thinking on that?
I thought we were meeting virtually.
My understanding is that the on-site presence offers the opportunity to meet in person. And that there was you expressed some concern about meeting in person when the library hasn't been having those kinds of meetings. And I thought there was an agreement around 8 to 10 people could be accommodated in person.
And that's why I suggested 6
I think we
invitees.
talked about meeting up in the reading room again. You're not talking about the 19th, are you?
We are.
Well,
I thought that was a virtual meeting, is what I'm saying.
no,
The board meeting is virtual. We're talking about a different meeting.
well,
The Friends. Right now, we're talking about how many people I should reach out to at what point, whether it's an in-person or virtual meeting. And some of the people that I would include work during the day. So that's another constraint. And so,
Okay, it's
I need to know the parameters in order to ask people to participate. So I need to know the number, the time, whether it's in person or virtual.
well, I think it's a bit confusing here. I've got the staff for most of the day, and then we have a board in the evening that's virtual. I don't know where the Friends fit in on the 19th.
And I'm sorry, Paul, perhaps I was misinformed. I thought the staff was meeting in the morning.
I'm sorry?
I thought the staff was meeting only in the morning. Am I misinformed?
Yeah, they'd be meeting most of the morning.
What about the afternoon?
Friends most of the evening. When does the Friends come in?
The afternoon?
I don't know. I mean, is that a separate meeting from the board members?
yes.
Okay.
And
It would
time
have to be
is
the
board
afternoon.
meeting.
Some of these I may not be there.
And you
Well,
don't need to be
but-
them. You don't need to be
yes.
at them. That's okay. It's.
Yeah, I would suggest, with the Friends too, that it would be, a Zoom meeting, but
It would be good if it was a Zoom meeting. What time is the board doing their Zoom meeting?
5:30.
I think I think the consultants I thought the consultants had indicated that the preference was an in-person meeting
That's
with-
correct.
with people.
That's correct.
But because of some of the concerns that people may have, that it was possible to do a virtual meeting. If it's a virtual meeting, there's no reason for it to be on the 19th.
I agree.
The whole purpose of having people be able to meet in person is what the reason is for the site visit. But they also said that they could do separate meetings virtually.
Okay, so we got something from Kirchner. You sent out something saying after you did all of the polling of everybody, we were having a virtual meeting on the 19th at 5:30 is what I think
For the board, that's correct.
for the board. And so that's set. now, or are we moving that around? Are we fooling around with that?
We're not proposing to change that date or time or venue.
And
But-
that is with the committee, the building.
It's with the board.
It's with the library consultant and the historical consultant, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
But it does, it does provide an obstacle for the friends who can only meet it after work also.
Well, they
So-
could, that meeting, couldn't they?
Pardon?
Couldn't they come to that one at 5:30 or no? Or do we want not? want-
We're doing the groups separately because they have, may have different insights, and also to give people sufficient time. The
Right.
meeting that Kirsten set up is an hour.
Mhm.
So, there's not going to be that much per person time available.
We could possibly do it, I mean, if you wanted to do it the same day as the 19th, we could possibly do it after the board meeting at 6:30 or 7 and do it as a Zoom meeting. My understanding from Marie, when I talked to her, was one of the advantages of an in-person was that the consultant liked to take people walking around the library. And of the people that would be involved from the Friends, they are pretty intimately involved in the physical structure of the building. So we could do a Zoom meeting, without walking around.
The alternative would be to not do it on the 19th and to have that meeting for the Friends in June. And when we have more time to sort of set up meetings rather than try and do it ad hoc.
On the other hand, we only have a day in June, right? One day
That's true. And
for all the other groups that,
these would be during the day, maybe going into the evening. So, Freda, do I hear that you're
You all decide this, but clearly the Friends of the Troy Public Library have a huge stake in the library, huge stake. And all our activities are directed to promoting the library, programs, services, and infrastructure. And so to accommodate our point of view, I think would be very respectful.
and valued. We would value it highly. So I absolutely want to have the Friends have an opportunity to speak and share your thoughts and not necessarily have to filter your thoughts. We would like you to be able to speak directly to the consultants and speak
Right.
directly and speak your mind.
Right.
So just gauging your conversation this evening, I think I heard, and please correct me, I think I heard your group, you think would prefer to meet in the evening
Mhm.
and you would prefer to meet in person. Did I hear that or did I not hear that? You prefer to meet remotely?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
We will,
And I think now, this may not be fair, but having done this kind of work myself, okay? This is what my professional work has been. I think that the input of the board and the staff and the Friends before June would be helpful to the consultants in shaping what they do when they talk to groups that have a different stake than the three groups that we're talking about, which is staff and trustees and the Friends. So if I were the consultants, I would want to hear from those three groups and it would inform what I would say and structure for the June thing. So I'm wearing not a Friends hat, I'm wearing somebody who has done this kind of work over the last 25 years. I'm not doing it now, but that's the work I did.
thank you, Fred. Appreciated and noted.
now,
So
I didn't hear whether you said that you felt the Friends would prefer a Zoom meeting or prefer in person. Did you say?
I think Zoom because some work and they wouldn't be available during the day. And so that's the constraint. I think they would probably prefer a Zoom meeting. It's easier.
And I think I also want to clarify that the intent of these meetings is not for the consultant to walk around and point at our building and say, this is what this should be, this is what that should be. I
Right.
think the intent is for them to walk around with people and have people say, this is what I like, or this is what I don't like, this is what it could be. And it's an opportunity for the consultants to hear from us,
Right.
to gather information.
Yeah. That was my impression. And I think it might be better if it were in person, but for us, it's not that necessary because of the involvement of the people who are most involved in the Friends and their knowledge of the building. As people who go to programs, as people who are patrons, we know the building. Not so long ago, we took a tour with Paul trying to figure out where our next investment was going to be. So, we've taken, we arranged the tours of the library, back when the library was doing open tours. We had, knowledgeable about the building, and so it would be better if we walked around and said, X, Y, Z. But I think in order to get the input about people who really care and really have been thoughtful about this, it might be easier to do it by Zoom.
So, Kirsten has proposed a hybrid approach for the board where they do both, have a Zoom meeting and also that some people meet on site. Would that be so, if you had a Zoom meeting to occur some evening other than the 19th, since we're trying to reserve that for on site, would you also be interested in having a few people come tour with the consultant during the day
That would be possible. That's absolutely,
would that be a compromise, or
yeah.
the best of all worlds?
Yeah, you said it was a hybrid. It's a really good idea. Yeah.
So, and I think the time exists on that, on the on-site day, because
Like
it's
on the 19th, I think I am available on the 19th. I could figure out who else is available on the 19th, but there are people whose input I think you should get who are not available during the day. That's right.
So if I may just sort of get broad brush picture again, I think I heard Paul and staff are meeting with the consultant in the morning on site. I think I heard that the afternoon has not yet been scheduled for the consultants. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes, that's right.
So we could have,
I have to get my calendar.
we could have a few small in-person meetings with the consultants on site in the afternoon of the 19th. Is that okay from the administration?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking Paul.
Oh, okay.
You're asking, I'm reluctant to have people come in on site if we don't really need that. I mean, if that's.
The consultant has recommended it. And I would value it.
And consultant, I don't think has worked in this particular environment, but anyway. I don't know. Again, if you're limited to very few people, maybe it would work, but we're also open at that time. So we have the public in as well as this group going through.
So what is your maximum occupancy inside the
About
building?
6.
Sorry?
About 6
For the entire building?
in that group.
Including, so in the group. Okay, thank you for clarifying. I think that works great. If we can have 6 people and the consultants come through for short walks through the building, remaining socially distant, with masks. There may be
So-
benefits to it, and I'm not sure we'll have 6.
Yeah. So I think it may be depending on, if I have the parameters, it may be enough to have an in-person meeting the afternoon of the 19th, okay? With, 4 or 5 people.
On
walk
site.
around on site with the consultant, and then I'm mostly concerned with a couple of people, and if I can find out if they might be able to be available on site in the afternoon, I could work that out. But that would be a good plan. And then if that let's say 4 to 6 people is insufficient, then, and what we can do also in preparation is the people who are going to show up can talk to other people of the friends, so that they're not only reflecting their own point of view, but they're reflecting their colleagues. It may be that we don't have to do Zoom at all. Okay. So we could try for an afternoon of the 19th, see how many people I can recruit to do that, who I think who are thoughtful, who are involved in the library in a variety of different ways, and go from there. And then if it doesn't tap enough people, then talk about arranging a Zoom with a larger group of the friends. How does that work?
I think that's reasonable. I think that the time exists for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. So if we're given a time, if I'm told, okay, at 3 o'clock, get as many people as you can together to walk through the library with the consultant, then I will do that.
And before we settle on a time, I'd just like to take a straw poll of the board to see if there are any board members who would be interested in meeting with the consultant on site on the afternoon of the 19th.
Yes, I think I would.
I would also.
So I see 4. So we'll set up a time. Is amongst the board, is there a time that does not work for you in the afternoon?
I'm not sure what's going on now. You have board members and friends in the afternoon?
Two separate
Different meetings,
groups. 2 separate groups.
2 separate groups, not together.
not together. I'm talking about, I'm trying to set up sequential meetings on the fly here, which is a lot of fun. So Fred, it sounds like the board has some flexibility in terms of when the board members can meet.
Mhm.
So if you could please poll your group
Mm-hmm.
and let me know
Mm-hmm.
in the next day or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will pencil in a time and figure an hour,
Okay,
not longer than an hour.
can I have till Friday?
Sure.
Yes. And in fact, this
What-
we're not the only ones involved in this. The consultants are also. So we should work with them.
Well, what
make
I'll
sure
do is
things are-
I'll reach out to Gina and ask her to please schedule 2 times, 2 afternoon slots.
Well, we can talk with her tomorrow.
Yeah, we got a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll work to set up a couple afternoon slots. Fred, let us know what works for your group, and we will fill in another spot.
And probably to make it easier on you, doing it towards the end of the day that doesn't run into the board Zoom meeting would be better, because for those who work, maybe they could take off, at 4 rather than at 5, So we would do better with like a, 4, 3:30 later in the afternoon time to capture more of the people I'm thinking about. Okay.
Okay. Great. That'd be very helpful. Thank you, Fred. I really appreciate your gathering your folks together, and it is possible to do it by Zoom, but it's not the same. And even the logistics of trying to describe that room upstairs, you know which room I mean, and they're going to say, I have no idea which room you mean. So
Yeah.
Being able to have that conversation will just, I think, be a little more facile if
Yeah.
people are able to do it in person. So
Okay.
thank you
Well,
for your,
The board, not just the board, but the Friends have a unique perspective because a number of them, at least in the past, have cleaned the library. And so they have that perspective as well as other perspectives.
Right.
Okay. And just a reminder, the meet and greet of the Friends is this coming Thursday, which is why Freda would like to wait to spend a lot of time on this effort.
Well,
So
I also think I could talk to people when they come. So it's at my house, and I hope you all come. It's from 4 to 6. It looks to be a beautiful day, and it's an informal gathering, and it's a chance for the trustees to see who all is involved with the Friends and or make a contribution in some way, you know, volunteer or whatever. So, you know, I have no idea who's coming because some people RSVP'd and most people didn't. So, but I would love for you all to come if it's possible for you to come.
and it's your opportunity to see Freda's yard, which has more to offer than just the foliage and flowers.
There's not much out there, but right. All my weeding can't be in vain. Okay.
thank you, Freda.
Okay.
On that note, I think I don't have anything to add on the building committee unless there are further questions.
I do have some further information about things that were discussed. Meeting with representatives of the city was discussed as well.
I have a whole list, but I'm happy to run through it if people want. I feel like we've taken up a lot of time on this.
Well, but you know, we kind of devoted this. This isn't important. We're only doing this once, and it's, you know, it's one of the few things on the agenda tonight.
Okay. So we did talk about meeting with the city and maybe try and get Monica from the city to join us as part of the city representatives. Is there anyone else from the city that we should reach out to?
You know, there's the city council as well as the administration. There are positions in the city, such as the planning commissioner, the economic development director, who perhaps should be included too, possibilities. Evelyn, you go to a lot of meetings with the city. Do you have suggestions? I was thinking of our city council person.
Who is that?
For the district, Anasha Cummings. Is
Well,
our
for a while until the election.
right, but while we're doing this, he is, and he also has the advantage of being someone who's young.
Now, what is the purpose again of meeting with the people? Is there a specific purpose?
We're trying to gather as many stakeholder groups as possible to get a broad input to our consultant in terms of
Okay.
what.
It is still involved in the consultant and what we want to see for the library.
The consultant would like to meet with as many people to talk about the library as possible.
Gotcha.
And they wanted us to recommend who they should meet with,
Gotcha.
as opposed to them just going out on the street and, you know,
Right.
polling passersby.
Right.
So
I think if we're gonna talk to city council, we should open it up. I mean, not just to Anasha, but since we serve the city of Troy, it really, we should include all the council. I mean, reach out to all the council members. Some will, I mean, I know Carmela, and I'm sure if she could be involved, she would be involved. She's very involved in everything.
Right. Is there a liaison who is sort of the point person for the council, so we don't have to call every single councilor individually?
It might be better to reach out to the whole council. I mean,
We're talking,
they do have their assistant, but I think, there's Mara, and she gets word out to them. But I think
they all have emails.
I mean, they all represent different groups of the population in the city, which would have different
Right.
issues and different concerns.
I'm hoping I'm looking for a quick and easy link.
Well,
If you go to Mara,
I think there's a city council and it goes to everybody as
Yeah.
far as an email goes.
Okay.
but yeah, it should go. There's I think there's a perfect point that it should go to all of them, because no one ever wants someone to say you didn't contact me, especially on the city council. And I'm trying to say this diplomatically, but I think it's important to reach out because they do represent all the neighborhoods, all the community, because we're not just that downtown.
So
And Nutch is great because he is, he'll come to some of the Friends meetings. He'll come to something. He will take part and understands the library, but others do too. So I think if you're going to do that, the entire council should be
I
notified.
agree with you wholeheartedly. And if I
And-
heard right, it sounds like there's an email address where one can send it, that it goes
Yes.
to every councilor.
Yes.
So we don't have to.
And CC Mara, and her address is also on their website because she is kind of, I don't know if you'd call her the liaison, but a city clerk. She certainly is the person who keeps in touch with what they're doing and make sure they get their mail and make sure that everything is moving smoothly with the council.
Okay.
So
Very good.
should that be separate from the city administration?
I
And-
think if you're-
And it exceeds the number that Paul talked about of the limit of 6 people. Maybe things will be different in a month. Which is-
So I think we also want to be careful. We don't want to invite we're not looking to do a press conference. We're not looking to have, we're looking to gather some short input, and I don't think we're looking to get a major public event. We're trying to create strategic, focused groups of people getting together.
Would it be,
Understood. Sorry.
go ahead, Evelyn.
Oh, no, you go ahead, please.
No, I think what you have to say precedes what I have to say.
Maybe not. Understood, Kirsten. This isn't going to be a spectacle, but you do still need to broach them. I don't think every city council person is going to attend or
I
want to.
agree. I agree with you.
But we have I'm going to say it. We have supporters on the council. We have detractors on the council.
Yep.
I think if you don't include everyone, the detractors are going to be more vocal possibly next September. And that's not good for us. And it isn't just a ploy that I'm thinking of. I think it's important to get them involved and have them understand what the library is and have them talk about the library.
And I agree with you 100%. We do want their input. What it was my hesitation, and perhaps I expressed this poorly, was not in whether we should invite them or not. It's whether we need to have separate meetings for each of them. Let's
Oh,
send out
no,
the-
we're
let's send
talking
out-
about a group.
No, group.
But someone was suggesting, we have one meeting for the city and one meeting for the city council and one meeting for.
But they're very different. I mean, you may
Let's-
well
let's-
want,
Let's send out the invitations and see who wants to participate first. And then we can decide, because we're limited to 6 persons. So we're going to break it into subgroups anyway. Let's see who's interested in participating first, and then we can break them up into subgroups rather than.
at the same time, we want people who we feel will serve our purpose too. Not just anybody who feels they,
How many people are on the city council?
there are 7 people.
So if all 7 of them say, yes, we want to come, we're going to be breaking into 2 groups off the bat. We may only get one who decides to come. So let's send out the invitation first, see who responds, and then try and break it up into, is it 1 meeting or 2 meetings or 5 meetings? I don't know. Let's.
And Kirsten, the administration of the city is different than the city council. And so the people who are staff to the administration, including the mayor and the deputy mayor and the people, the planning people, and all, have a different stake than city council people have in the library and in Troy. So they're different people. The administration of the city is different than the city council is. So it may be that you reach out to both groups and that they're separate endeavors.
Yeah, I would think so, that it would be better to have them separately.
Okay.
Rather than so much the logistics, could we move on to those groups we might identify as wanting to have interviewed? So
I suggested, by the way, Paul, as in addition, reaching out to Christy Nealon at TRIP and maybe getting some ideas from her about reaching out into the community, especially the community that we don't usually get input from or go out to.
well, when you say that, are you talking about residents? Are you talking about organizations?
More residents, but it could be organizations or people that also represent organizations.
For instance, we do have people who utilize a lot of the other resources come to our library, people who at Joseph's house, and you could have a group of representatives of those organizations to see how the library fits into that. I'm not sure that's as important for the building so much as for programs and things like that. But
well, as we're trying to get more people to use the library, use the resources, I think that might be important to find out why they are or maybe aren't using it. Certainly for an organization, the YW has had a long-running association with the library. We've had volunteers that do special programming back and forth, although I think it has, obviously in COVID, it kind of disappeared as far as I know and was slowing down beforehand. But again, that's another type of organization that represents individuals that we're supposed to be serving, or who we are supposed to be serving.
no, some libraries have social workers on their staff.
And are we talking? I think we're talking about. We're not talking about meetings for the 19th. We're talking about meetings for June.
For June, right? Because we're now these are external to the library versus the ones that would, like the friends and the board and the staff.
May I suggest that I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not sure how much bandwidth people have to take a more detailed discussion on this at this time in this format. An alternative could be that we send out a draft list and we gather input from everybody in written form, and then bring that forward then as an email to share with everybody in a timeline, and people can then respond to that, and then we move forward with that rather than trying to do this right here, right now.
Although I think we're in somewhat of a time crunch.
I agree, but
right? Because we have to give sufficient notice to those people who are going to be invited.
So I'll send out I propose, and I'll look for a motion to accept my proposal that I propose that I'll send out a draft list by tomorrow morning to the board members. It'll be a live file, and I will ask people to add groups that should meet or add individuals who represent those groups to be invited. And then we gather that feedback by Monday morning.
I think that could be a little late.
Okay,
How
then
about-
let's do Friday, end of the day
Let's do Friday.
I'm sorry,
And-
I was looking at the wrong week. You're absolutely right. Today is Tuesday, yes. So get feedback to me by Friday.
And also Friday for feedback on the survey as well.
Let's talk about the survey separately, please.
Well, we had sort of talked about it and then we hadn't concluded.
Well, I'd like to circle back to that if we may.
Okay.
So I propose sending out a draft list by tomorrow morning, seeking feedback from the board members by Friday the 14th, with a amended list to be sent out to all board members by Monday the 17th. And then hearing any objections to that draft list, we would then share it with the consultant on Monday afternoon,
Well, okay.
in the intent to look to set up meetings for the middle of June sometime.
By the way, if this seems rushed, what they had, the timeline they had proposed would have, was it this week, Kristen, that they
We were
were,
trying to do the 19th and the 20th.
but they haven't they proposed this week though? To
Originally,
originally, yeah. So
originally,
we're
Well-
trying to get a little bit extra time to do this without missing the deadline for completion. Okay,
Is the board open to that approach? Is there anyone who wants to amend that approach? Hearing no objections. Do I hear a motion to accept that approach?
I so move.
Second,
I second.
Thank you, thank you.
all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
all against? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously.
Then circling back to the question of the survey. Are there any questions on the survey? Are there any questions about how the survey could be distributed? Then may I ask that we, as a board, allow the consultants to prepare the survey for us, and that we then reach out to distribute that survey via our website, via our circulation desks at both libraries, and via the city, whatever resources the city can provide to help distribute that survey to the local populace.
So this may duplicate some of those groups, but I can send it to people on our email list, some of whom are on the library list, some of them who may be on the city's list. But once a survey is done, we can circulate it to our list. So you can add it.
I don't think it should be limited
I
to
agree.
how it might be sent out.
I'm just volunteering.
No, I appreciate it. I think you're right
Thank you.
too. Maybe I'm frozen here.
we can hear you.
Am I back? I see some people moving.
Yeah, you're back.
I did think I had some minor suggestions.
Okay, please share.
Sorry. Kirsten, do people find it acceptable as is? Because I thought there could be some minor changes for us in the survey.
Were you
If-
thinking possibly some blank areas that someone could fill in and answer?
I think there is one place for comments on it at the very end.
But wasn't it a very specific question? I'm trying to go back. Comments.
So no one else had any changes they wanted to propose?
What changes were you thinking of, Marie?
You know, I don't remember. At first I thought it didn't encompass non-patrons well enough and why they may not use it. I would have to go back and review it once again,
Mhm.
but nobody else. So if I'm the only one, I will get my comments in to the consultants.
I think that sounds like a great idea to share your thoughts with the consultant and maybe they tailor a question to address those concerns. I'm open to that.
I just wanted to make sure no one else had any. Okay, was there anything else on the historic structure report?
Paul, do you have any updates in terms of things that have happened in the building?
I'm sorry, and updates?
I think that I heard the consultant has been inside and outside the building and done surveys and
Yes.
and then they've also met with the engineer to look at the HVAC systems.
Yeah, the interior and exterior surveys are done.
Okay, so things are moving along.
Okay, construction progress, north and east wall, Paul?
Yeah, they're about, probably about halfway through. The east wall, the foundation bluestones repair is completed. What they're working on now on the east wall is they're scraping down the loose paint, roughing it up and starting to repaint sections. The east wall will be repainted and then sealed. And they're also repointing the joints as well on the east side, but there's not as much heavy duty repointing work to be done on the east side. On the north side wall, they're doing brick replacement and repointing at this stage. They've got all the scaffolding up. Let's see, where are we? Work on the parapet walls is supposed to be started this month. They're still looking at a goal of June 30th to finish up, but based on the weather, they may go a little bit into July, particularly with the north wall. During this time, TAP and has been able to do a survey of the roof And there are some issues with shrinkage of the roofing membrane, and a couple other issues up in the roof. That is not part of the contract for the masonry work. So I think since they're going to have a roofer there, we'd like to do some of those small scale repairs and get that done. The big problem with any shrinkage on that EPDM roof is that water seeps into the walls, which is a whole problem with the building in the first place. So we want to see if we could seal up any of the roofing membrane that needs to be redone. They were on the scaffolding. We wanted to take a look at the cornice on the northwest side, which has a fairly severe crack. They won't be able to do that based on the scaffolding that they have, so they're gonna have to wait till towards the end and bring around the lift to the front of the building, and so we can get a chance to take a look at that cornice. There's a couple other cracks related to that in that cornice area as well. But project is going well.
Thank you for your update.
So the next item is the director's report.
Yeah, the director's report I did put on the Dropbox. I want to just kind of, oh, there it is. Well, I don't think I'll read it, but I want to kind of give you a summary of the whole thing. A little while ago, based on the figures of for Rensselaer County of positive results, which is very low, I felt that it was time to plan on going back to regular hours at both the main library and Lansingburg. Since that time, now regular hours for us, including which would be summer hours, going back to summer hours beginning in June 1st would have the main library open 56 hours a week. So in the meantime, the Division for Library Development has come out with a statement that they expect all libraries in New York State to go back to regular hours by June 1st as well. And regular hours meaning the mandated hours that we are supposed to be open. Since we serve a population of 25,000 to 100,000, we're mandated to be open 55 hours a week. So we would make that requirement. In the meantime, of course, other problems have occurred. We have lost 2 more staff members. Elizabeth Kilcher in circulation is going to be leaving. And also Luke Bowen in as a reference librarian is going to be leaving us. We also have some openings as well. So we've had to scramble a bit and hire some more staff. So we're working on that at the moment. Right now, we don't have lists for these positions, so we have to hire provisionally. We have been able to hire 1 library assistant provisionally in the meantime. And we're looking to hire a librarian 1 before we have to reopen. So that's kind of a summary of what's going on. So
Okay,
we do expect to go back to those hours on June 1st. We still expect to do that. We haven't obviously made any announcements yet because this is going to be a challenge to have enough staff to go back to regular hours.
so what happens if there's not sufficient staffing?
If we can't do it, we can't do it. We have to wait. We have to postpone it. That's why we're not making any announcements now.
Can I ask a question? So summer hours in Lansingburg means from 10 to 1 on Saturdays. So starting June 1st, it would go back to 10 to 1 for summer
Yeah,
hours?
yeah.
Okay.
Anything
Not a
else?
problem. Lansingburg, we don't have enough people either, but so.
It affects when the bookseller can be open. That's why
Right.
I asked the question.
Right.
Anything else on this topic? Okay, the next item is observations and community feedback. Does anyone have any? Item after that, old business, new business. One item of old business that's been on our agenda for discussion has been the anniversary of the Lansingburg Library. The Friends have proposed doing one of those yellow and blue signs to go at Lansingburg to the Lansingburg Historical Society. The Lansingburg Historical Society is interested in working with us. They're meeting today and we'll be talking about that, and is fine with the Friends going ahead and doing the Pomeroy Foundation for the blue and yellow sign. And actually it's Lansingburg's, I think, 250th anniversary, and they're hoping that both the Lansingburg Historical Library anniversary and the Lansingburg Library village or town or whatever it is can be celebrated at the same time. So that's the current status, proceeding to work together. Paul, has the staff had any input as to what they would like to see?
Not that I have heard.
Okay, you had asked them and told them that we were interested in hearing their opinion.
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay. We don't want to leave anyone out. Any other old new business or? The next item is public comment. Oh, Evelyn?
I do. Sorry. It's just something I've been thinking about and would like everyone else to think about it, especially since the consultants are coming soon. So it's tangential to the HSR report. And that's branding. As I'm reading some of the email and missives that are going out and seeing, you know, our identity as the Troy Public Library and then the Hart Memorial Library, it made me go back to thinking about who are we. I know branding was certainly brought up by one of our former board members about keeping our identity out there in the public. I know how our library is legislated as, which is the Troy Public Library. It's been using that name. And I know it's been discussed within the group before, but I think in particular, the timing to think about that and decide how we're going to face the public is something important to have in our minds as we go forward with this report, and how we connect with the public because of this report.
You raise an interesting question, Evelyn. I wasn't sure. Are you referring to the building in downtown Troy on 2nd Street, or are you referring to the organization in Troy as a whole,
Well,
including Lansingburg and all of the region we serve?
Well, we have the Hart Memorial Building, but we are the Troy Public Library.
Yes.
So sometimes I've been seeing, we are the Hart Memorial Library, but the Troy Public Library.
Yeah, and I think for the historic structures report, the consultants have been referring to it as a Hart Memorial Library building. I don't think that they're implying that is the Troy Public, I mean, that building is not the Troy Public Library, right? I think we can agree with that.
But I think,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
now I was just gonna say, I think we have to take great care in that. So we're not going back to the past, and we are talking about the past, but don't go back to the past where we're confusing people. The library changed its persona some years ago to get public involvement, so it stopped calling itself the Hart Memorial Library. Again, it's just my thought in how we avoid confusion, be real clear as we go through this process. So it's just something I wanted us to think about because it's been on my mind. Not that my mind is the most important thing in the world, but it's something that I see every time I see some of the work product going out.
There is confusion. Since we're more in contact with patrons at Lansingburg, they, a lot of people, their loyalty is to the Lansingburg Library, and they don't necessarily see the main library and the Lansingburg Library is necessarily connected. Yeah.
They don't see Lansingburg necessarily connected to the city of Troy either.
No, they don't. No, absolutely. You have a different zip code even. I mean, my God, yeah. Different school system. I mean, yeah, they would secede if they could, right?
I think a footnote, though, to what we were saying is that legally we are the Troy Public Library District, and that the Hart Memorial name no longer really has any legal standing, which allows us a naming opportunity.
Isn't it analogous to the Lansingburg Library? Is the Lansingburg Library the name of the Lansingburg Library, or is that just how we refer to it?
Well, yeah, essentially it's the Lansingburg Library, but the building is the old Academy building.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have any other particular name. So, it's basically the Lansingburg Library.
But even in the system, it's Troy, Lansingburg. It's the branch. It's not a separate library.
Right.
It's trying to make
People
sure
think
that
it is separate,
the
but
public understands that, because it's important for again, how we go forward in this, for those people who are in those other neighborhoods to understand this is the library.
we have a big sign there. It says Troy Public Library, Lansingburg Branch. So we tried.
And so Troy Public Library, the downtown, what branch is that? The downtown? branch?
That's not a branch, it's the main library.
I always call it the main library. I mean, when I'm doing correspondence or describing it,
You can't have
it's awkward,
you can't have a branch without a main library.
Right.
So this is the main library, is what I call the building. This is the main library. And then if we have branches like the Lansingburg branch, it's a branch.
Anything else on this or any other business before we come to a close? Okay, any more public comment or any public comment? I guess we haven't had any yet. Apparently none. So let us adjourn. And the date and time of the next meeting is June 8th at 20,212.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, yeah.
I don't think I can make that.
And June
And
9th.
so I'll see you all next month.
And I would be remiss, by the way, I'm really sorry. June 9th is for the Upper Hudson annual meeting, which I know all of us will get invitations to, but
And it's virtual,
it's virtual,
unfortunately.
no dinner.
No dinner, no
But
nothing.
there will be a speaker.
True.
There'll be a speaker and there'll be elections and there'll be awards given. And one of our programs is being nominated for one of those awards, for the Program of the Year award.
We have. We're waiting with bated breath to hear the result.
Now, which program is it that's being nominated?
The race in America.
Understanding and recovering race in America with Dr. Jennifer Burns.
And Jerry's shaking her head up and down.
She's been in the class.
Yes, I think she approves.
It's a good class. And
Wonderful.
so our meeting is June 9th. Our next meeting is June 9th as well.
No,
No,
that's the
June
8th.
8th.
June 8th is our meeting.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, because June 9th is a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Great. Thanks.
And
Sorry about that. I should have said it sooner.
we will see you all next week.
Until then.
So put your thinking cap on about what you want to say to the consultant.
And possibly on Thursday at the Friends.
Yes,
Yes.
which is in person.
Yes.
We have to treasure those events that are. Okay, thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.